New Falls Count Anywhere on Earnestly Podcast. I'm your host, Ernest EJ Chris. Is recording this on Tuesday night, August 26, 2025. And as always, when I do this show, we do this always with my co-host. Of course, he's the one-third of the podcast, also the host of the Rob the Genius podcast. It is my guy, Rob the Genius, of course, on the show. Rob, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Not much, man. Can't complain.
Yeah, man. So I am in vacation mode. After this podcast, I am done recording for the week. Although you guys will probably see some shows drop next couple of days because I have those things baked in already, scheduled to drop anyway. But I'm taking a couple of days off. I'm going to be flying to New York tomorrow morning to go to see System of a Down and Korn in concert at MetLife Stadium. So my wife and I are going to take a couple of days away from the kids. It's actually our first vacation. Since without the kids, since being parents for 12 years now. So this is a kind of a monumental thing for us, honestly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we need it. We need it bad, bro. Like every vacation we do is the kids with us. And look, we love our boys, man. Our boys are amazing. They know all that, but sometimes you got to make sure you feed into the marriage too also. So we're looking forward to it,
man.
of course. Yeah. So we have a lot to get to here because I don't know when we're going to record another false count. We'll try one next week, obviously, but football's back next week, and as you guys know, with the schedule on this podcast gets very, very tricky when football's back because I'm lots of content with that. But a couple things to touch on the show. We'll talk about. Obviously, did you finish WWE Unreal yet?
So I finished. I did finish episode 4, and I skimmed through the rest of it. So
okay,
yeah.
Want to touch on that? I want to review that a little bit with you. For the most part, the possibility of Chris Jericho come back to WWE is in play. We'll see. Of course, Clash of Paris is this Sunday, actually. And then I have a take I want to play for you from Peter Rosenberg, who's the host of the Cheap Heat podcast. Big personality in New York City. He had a big take on Goldberg. I want to share with you guys on the show. But the WWE, as of late, has been making a lot of deals. Lots of deals. Not like Trump there, of course, but WWE recently made a deal with ESPN, where all the PLEs are going on their starting next month because they moved the deal up to next month, where all the PLEs will be on their new stream platform coming up. So I want to review some of these things here because there's a lot of things WWE's been doing the last calendar year or so with their brand. So right now, as of right now, the deal with ESPN as of last week or 2 weeks ago rather is 5 years, $1.6 billion. It was the previous deal with Peacock was $1 billion. There's still no word on the library whether that's going to be included with them yet. Of course, they have their deal currently with Netflix. That's a 10-year deal at $5 billion. Netflix has the option to extend an additional 10 years and opt out after initial 5. Then they have their deal also with NBC Universal, which is SmackDown, which is 5 years, $1.4 billion. Now, their current deal with Peacock right now, because the PLE has been moved to ESPN, the flip is they signed a new deal with Peacock, a new multi-year deal to make Sunday's Main Event exclusive to streaming service. This show will air 4 times a year on primetime. Now, worth noting that will be only on Peacock and not on NBC any longer. People are going to say it's kind of confusing because Peacock and NBC are technically the same thing, except NBC is the national television feed, of course, versus Peacock being the stream. Right now, the PLEs, the NXT PLEs, the SmackDown library remain on Peacock. For now, the Peacock will continue to be the home of NXT Premium Live events until that's changing now. NXT Premium Live events until March 2026. The SmackDown library also remain on Peacock, available on a 3-day delay after airing live on USA Network. The WWE Network library will expire. Let me see this. Hold on. Let me say this right. Trying to find here. All right. So WWE Network library will expire. The last vast library content, which includes all past WWE, WCW, and ECW pay-per-views, remain on Peacock to the end of 2025. No word on when that is going to where it's going to go. So WWE's been doing a lot of business with distributors and other platforms and all that good stuff. Combined with the fact that they've also WrestleMania, we discussed in the podcast back months ago, where the WrestleManias they've moved it. Remember, the original plan was to have WrestleMania in New Orleans, and then they last minute pivoted and moved back to Vegas for 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Which of course upset a lot of people as well because the price tag for those tickets are off the chain. My question is this for you, Rob, more than anything else. We discussed all these media deals and all stuff. I'm all for making money. I'm a capitalist, so I'm all for making money. I'm not against that at all. But we talk on the show about how a lot of wrestling fans, and because this is a TKO era now, and they're just they're trying to create new revenue for their company. But at what point is this bubble going to burst? Because obviously, unless you have ESPN or cable TV, you're going to have to pay $20 at least $20 to $30 more a month now just to get access to the PLEs. And assuming if the library goes there as well down the road, what point is this bubble going to burst? Because forget the fact that the price tag is getting steeper and steeper now every passing year. Then you have all these the parts of the brand being splintered off left and right to the point where now, okay, so now what? I can't find these shows anywhere now. There's no one hub anymore. When is bubble going to burst?
Good question. Now, first of all, one thing that's important to note that's really only in the United States, because internationally, like, they're putting everything on Netflix, like outside of the U.S. So this is kind of similar to the NFL model, because like the NFL has their media rights spread everywhere, right? They got games on NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox. They got games on ESPN, and now they got games. They got games on Amazon Prime, and they got some games on Netflix, and they have some playoff games on Peacock.
Yep.
Because, well, basically, I mean, you maximize your money, right? Because ultimately, you get more money if you're spread out, and then it creates bidding wars for rights, and that drops up the price tag. And so the NFL has found, and then also now the NFL is also a media strategy, because when you get in bed with the NFL, basically you basically have to become propaganda for them. Right? I mean,
as per their deal with the ESPN currently, which I have a lot of issues with, but we'll get to that down the road.
Because I would anyone I'm old enough. I don't know if you remember the show Playmakers.
Yeah.
And at one point ESPN was doing scripted fictional television, and they had the show called Playmakers, and Playmakers was based on the fictional football team and a fictional football league, and it was a big hit. And the NFL did not like it because they said it gave an unrealistic, depiction of football players, when in reality a lot of the stories in the show were like way too close to being true.
Yeah.
And so the NFL said, well, gee, this nice TV deal we have with you, ESPN, would be shame if something happened to it. And ESPN canceled Playmakers. But that's a whole nother thing. Basically, it's just the more you make in the United States anyway, you make these separate deals and you get money from different places, and ultimately you make more money than just having it all under one umbrella. Now, I don't know how international TV rights work. I don't think it's really. Apparently, it's not the same kind of deal. But there, I mean, but it's there's more money to be made spreading yourself around. And now, as far as when the bubble will burst, good question. Because one thing the NFL does do, even though they're putting more and more of these games on streaming services, one thing the NFL has always done is that if you live in the local market, you still get the game on free television.
Right.
So if the Commanders are playing on Prime, I can still watch it on NBC or whatever. If you live in Maryland, or if like the Ravens are playing on Prime or Netflix locally, you can still watch it on free television.
Right.
And that is ultimately, so they don't, they don't get a PR hit basically from people not being able to see the local team because it's on Prime or whatever. So I think ultimately, somewhere down the road, it would behoove TKO to do something like that. Now, there's a rumor that they're going to run like portions of the PLEs on ESPN.
Of
you know,
the
and
when you say when you say portions, we mean exactly by
like
that.
like maybe like the first half of it or something. And then you want to then if you want to see the main event or whatever, you got to have the ESPN Unlimited or whatever. That's a rumor. I don't know if that's true or not. Well, look,
I don't know why they're half-assed though. If they have the rights to the PLEs already, if you have ESPN, I don't know why you would half-ass at this point. Like they already have the rights to airing it, so what would be the benefit to airing like a free portion of that? I guess
well,
I don't know.
just like that, like sometimes with boxing cards, they like the first couple of fights might be on ESPN, but then if you want the big one, you have to order the pay-per-view.
Right,
Or like when AEW does their pay-per-views, they have this thing called the buy-in, and it's on the YouTube channel, and and they'll have like 2 or 3 matches on there, right? And the idea is to you watch the matches on the YouTube channel for free, and then that kind of tugs at your curiosity, and it helps like people, kind of late deciders. It will nudge some of them to
right, true.
go ahead and buy the show, buy the pay-per-view. Um, Look, man, look, how these bubbles go, right? It isn't it's not a problem until it is.
Right.
And that's basically what's going to happen. There will come a point one day where the shit's just not going to sell. Okay. I mean,
Because that's the thing too. Also, I keep hearing people like, "Oh, I'm tired. I'm sick of all this stuff." We were talking to Duke about this last week on the podcast before he jumped on this very topic about the media deals and everything else. And like these same people who are bitching about like, "Oh, I'm not going to do this anymore," they end up buying it anyway. They end up getting the stuff because they can't. They keep feeding the addiction. Listen, folks, if you want to see real change, you want to see things not continue going in this direction where you're paying more and more out of your pocket, you got to sacrifice and stop watching the product. You got to start finding ways to hit it where it hurts. Unfortunately, you keep feeding the beast. It's the same thing in NFL. People keep bitching about, oh, the NFL has all this stuff and you got to pay for this and for this, but you're still buying it. You're still buying the merch. You're still getting the services necessary to watch the games. So you're still feeding the addiction. It's like a crack addict saying, I hate these drugs, not good for me. I hate these drugs, but you still take it. Doesn't
yeah.
matter, So until you stop feeding the beast, the only way things are going to change. This is how capitalism works. If you're buying the product, they're going to keep doing what they can and stretching until they can't anymore. And that only happens when you stop feeding the beast. That's it. There's really no rhyme or reason.
Yes.
And Rob, I don't fault WWE for this. I may not like the fact of what they're doing, but this is their company. And if people are buying into it, who might have said, well, this is a bad idea? It's working, obviously. It's working. They're making money hand over fist.
Yeah. And so, well, again, it works until it doesn't. I mean, that's just how it goes, right? I mean, there will come a point where, so, for some people, there will be a point of no return. There will come a point where it's like, you know what, I can't go that far. Um, it's like okay, like I collect comic books, right? And it's
Right,
very
of course.
similar, right? And if you collect comic books, everybody, you start out with your favorite superhero, whoever that is, right? And then you pick up 2 or 3 more, some other people you like, and then okay, but then if you keep going, they got these crossover events. Then they have like the super huge crossover events, stuff like Blackest Night or Secret Wars or whatever, right? And then those become these big all-encompassing things with all these crossover issues and all these special issues and all these things. And eventually you get to make a decision like, okay, and you end up there comes a point where you end up like saying, I gotta skip this event.
Right.
I can't buy 20 comic books right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't buy 50 comic books for one story. It's too many. I can't right now. And and then that's the same thing will eventually happen. It'll eventually happen is like, you know what? I can't get ESPN Unlimited and Peacock and Netflix and then, pay for whatever other streaming services I have for the other stuff I watch. And there'll come a point where it's just like, I can't. And then people will have to
Yeah.
make decisions. Um,
Duke
and
and I
that's
got
just
this
what's
last
going to
week.
happen.
Yeah,
And
Duke got into last week because he was defending WWE. He was saying, this is fantastic, and what's the big difference? I go, well, buddy, first off, like it is an increase in price. You can't make excuse with WWE here. It is an increase in price. Like if you don't have ESPN, okay, you're not a sports fan, okay, you're going to pay. It's really 20 if you have Peacock, but you don't have ESPN, and you want to watch PLEs, you're going to pay $20 more a month. He brought the fact that, well, what about AEWs and the pay-per-views? I go, what is different? The pay-per-views are once every season. You pay 50 to 60 every 3 months or every 4 months, whatever it means, whatever the events are. Okay,
Yeah.
This is every month. It's just every month now. So there's a difference. And look, I'm not mad that WWE doing what they're doing. It is what it is. Their job is to make money for their investors and for shareholders, and they're doing that. And there was a market, and people are buying to the market. The brand's very popular. Their shows are popular. We'll talk about it in a second. Unreal, for example, is a hit on Netflix right now currently. So everything they're doing is still working. So clearly, what they're doing, while it may piss off some folks, clearly it's not a widespread issue because people are still watching the product, and they're still selling tickets.
So now what will happen is that, like there's just a lot of moving pieces, right? Like as long as I'd say generally, as long as the audience is happy with the current product, it won't be a problem, right?
Yeah.
Because, but if there comes a point where they aren't as satisfied with the current product, then it's a problem. But also, the other thing is they locked in. Another thing that's important than other than just making money was to get like the next 4 or 5 years locked in as far as their media situation, their broadcast situation.
Right.
Because, and it's really important now because they're just law of averages. They're going to hit they're at some point soon. They're going to plateau, at least.
Yeah.
And again, and that's just law of averages. That's got nothing to do with how good your show is or whatever. It just happens. Okay, sometimes like I always, one of the things I say on the Mindless podcast is just the graph doesn't always go up, and if somebody shows you the graph that always points up, then you need to ignore what they're saying.
Yeah.
And look, and not to make a political thing out of this, but we see this all the time when people start predicting, when they say, "Oh, well, the Dow Jones is, if we do this, it's just go up forever."
Yeah, of course.
Right? And and people say, "Well, the housing prices, they will go up forever," and they go up until they stop going up. Right. Right.
So there's only as much houses you can buy and sell. So
yeah, and then sometimes, and then sometimes the market just tanks, right? For reasons. So, and look, and also streaming services in general, it's like a Ponzi scheme basically, or shell game, or it's streaming service. The streaming service business model is still bullshit, basically.
It really is. If you think about it, but I've always said too. Also, I said this even years ago, like the value in streaming services, and it has been for a long time, because I knew the news was coming, is not in the saving money. You don't save money in streaming services anymore. The only value in streaming services you get now is the fact that you get to choose what you want to have. Like, again, when you get cable TV, for example, a bundle, whatever kind of bundle you get, there are probably channels in that bundle that you don't watch, right? I'm sure. Like, you have cable, right?
Oh, well, yeah, of course. I mean,
so the channels you have on your cable, for example, you don't watch, right?
Yes.
But you're still paying for it, though, right?
Well, because
because the carriage, you're still paying for the carriage fee.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So like, but at least with Netflix, if you don't want it, you can just drop it, and that's it. If you don't want it, drop it, and there's $20 free right there. Same with HBO Max, same with Peacock, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the value for me of streaming today versus you're not saving money. You just have more control in what you want to watch. That's it. See, and, I don't. Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Okay, so basically, the streaming service. I think Netflix is profitable after a couple of decades. But basically, the thing about the streaming services is even as the prices continue to go up, they're still not charging enough to make a profit.
No, they're not.
because the thing about the whole hook to streaming services is you get all of this stuff at this low price, and you can watch it whenever you want, and it's just price, volume, and convenience. Like you can't get all three.
Right.
And not make well the company you can't offer you all three in perpetuity and make a profit. At some point, like, they got to sacrifice something. They either have to cut back on content and not, so they won't be paying as much going out, or you know they have to charge you more money. You know, you know, or they will have to, or they would have to not be a 24-hour available whenever you want it kind of thing, right? Because there were times back in the day where like their basic cable channel, even basic cable channels didn't run 24 hours, right?
Hmm.
Like I mean, even like your you know CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News, like they used to like overnight would just run reruns of shit,
Yeah.
right?
Or have ads running all night long, commercial ads.
Yeah. So it's just so like the streaming service model is bullshit. And look, at some point in the next 10 years, there's going to be just major consolidation in streaming services because
You're kind of seeing it now. You're seeing it now
yeah,
with Disney.
it's
We're
just
doing ESPN and Hulu now. They're gonna
yeah, you're
instantly
seeing all this
Hulu.
bundling
Yeah.
because like you can't. I mean, it's just not sustainable. And so I mean, so basically, in regards to WWE, look, the problem may eventually solve itself, right? I mean,
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
because I mean, if because I mean, as it is right now, I mean, you know, um, and even if the big corporations don't all merge, like they, the streaming service, they might, they'll strike a deal to bundle the streaming services, right?
Right.
Because and then that's eventually going to happen. Eventually, you're going to have a streaming version of cable, basically,
Hmm.
and there'll be tiers, just like there are tiers on, like with basic cable, there are certain packages and whatnot, and premium cable and all that type of stuff. So, it's just that. I mean, that's where we're headed eventually. And so, but in the short run, you get as much money out of the thing as you can.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing is that, what like wrestling fans, I mean, hardcore wrestling fans, they're going to keep getting it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, um, what happens
They'll
is,
find they'll find ways they'll find ways to justify paying for that service.
and oh yeah, I mean, and then but then also because look, remember during the Monday Night Wars, me and my buddies, we would like there was one point for like I think it was like 97 and 98. We were ordering like we would go in together, but we were ordering every month the WCW and WWE pay-per-view.
I think back then it was $20 a month or
Well,
$29 a
it
month.
was more than that. It was like 35,
30, 30,
$40.
30. Yeah. Yeah.
And then we would take turns, like, this month, we'll get this, come to my house this time, we'll go to your house next time. But we were doubling. I mean, that's $80 every month was coming up. We were putting
Hmm.
good. Um, now, so you won't lose the hardcore fans. They will find a way, and the hardcore wrestling fans they'll cut something else first, right? I mean, um, but the more casual people, or the ones who kind of dip in and out, you know, depending on what's going on in their life at the time or whatever, you'll lose some of them. Um, but
Yeah.
just
Yeah. But and I think also like if you have Netflix, I don't think most people are buying Netflix for Raw. I think they see the totality of what Netflix has, and because Raw is on there, it may encourage you to buy it because subscribe to it because it's part of a larger conglomerate of things that are on that service. I think the ESPN one is interesting because, of course, we all know the PLEs are much more important than Raw and SmackDown. So the ESPN has the one that can make the bang for the buck here.
yeah, and so um, I mean,
Like I don't have NBC Universal because I don't have cable. I have streaming service. So I don't have anything that gets you NBC to watch SmackDown. So how I watch SmackDown, I watch SmackDown on YouTube. I just watch the recap.
Because I still have cable. I mean, a lot of it just comes down to, I mean, as long as I can afford it, I'll keep doing it.
Yeah, me too. And the thing is, the reason for me, okay, so like I'll give you a little inside baseball what I pay for here. Like I have Peacock, I pay for. That's now I pay the top brand because I don't want ads, so I pay somewhere between $15 a month, I think, somewhere around there. Netflix I pay for. That's $20 a month. So right now you're 35. Hulu is bundled with HBO Max currently and Disney Plus. So we're paying combined $40 for that. Then now I'm not trying to put my mom out there, but my mom and I we share some of this. So like I'll share some of my service with her, and then I use her Paramount, I use her Apple TV, and I pay for Prime. I pay definitely over $100 a month on streaming services. Definitely with that, and that's not including seasonal things like the NBA League Pass and FanDuel Sports for my Heat games. Because if I don't have cable, I gotta find watch a Heat game, and the only way I can do is pay for it up front. $20 a month for that one. League Pass is $15 a month, and then NFL Red Zone is another $15 a month, $13 a month. So I pay a pretty penny for that stuff. But here's the thing: the reason why I'm not mad about it, I use it. It's not like one of those things I'm like wasting money when I'm paying for a service that I never use or hardly use. I use these services, if not me, my wife does, or my kids do. So it does get it gets the squeeze out of. We do use the services, so I'm not terribly mad about it. Yeah, obviously it's getting more expensive there but honestly, when you consider the amount of content you have on Netflix, $20 a month ain't that bad. If you look at individually, for example, or look at some of these individual stream services, just as an individual, and what they provide you, they really are not that bad in price. You think about it. We're complaining about the fact that
it's just
we're complaining because of the fact that we get so used to paying a certain price, and then every year another dollar, another dollar, another dollar. That's what we're frustrated about. But it's still good value.
Yeah, and now what's happened? Now, of course, what's happened is people aren't going to the movie theater as much.
No,
and so for a lot of people, like that streaming money, that used to be the movie money.
mm-hmm.
So they've already made it. They've already adapted, right? And well, another thing, now what makes the ESPN thing a bit inconvenient is what you said before. Is like, there are people who don't watch sports otherwise, and now are going to need to order this thing, right? So, the Netflix thing wasn't a big deal because people already had Netflix, right? It just meant you went to Netflix to watch it instead of, well, they used to put Raw on Hulu, but I mean, basically, it just meant now, once they put it on Netflix, just okay. Well, now you can watch it live on Netflix instead of waiting the next day to watch it on Hulu. Okay,
right.
That's not like a big change, really. Really, in terms of it's not a big change in terms of money. If you already had Hulu and Netflix, then you're not paying anymore, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, or if you already had Peacock, right? Now I think a lot of us, for a lot of us, we traded the WWE Network for Peacock. So again, you weren't really paying more.
No,
right?
in fact, I saved money.
Yeah, and
I had both already. So what happens? I ended up merging with Peacock, and I saved $10.
So I mean, a lot of it comes down to your individual finances.
Mm-hmm.
So again, trading WWE Network for Peacock wasn't that big of a deal. If you already had Hulu and Netflix, then again, just watching Raw on Netflix live instead of waiting to watch it the next day on Hulu, not a big deal if you already had both.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so now the question is, will people find a thing they can drop in order to pick up the ESPN Unlimited? I think some people probably will. And again, I think some people will.
I have access. I have access to ESPN already, so I don't think I'll have a problem watching the PLEs necessarily. But if you ask me, if I didn't have access to that, would I pay for the PLEs, ESPN? probably would, because I am a sports fan, and there's a lot that will come with that. Like, you're going to get Monday Night Football, you're going to get the NBA games, you're going to get so I would pay for that, because there are things on there I will watch on a regular basis. So again, this is what I've been saying. We can't expect to get things for free either. You know what I'm saying? We can't be the society where we're like, oh well, it should be cheaper and this for free. No, that's not reality. You
Well,
know,
because the other thing is,
you're not entitled. You're not entitled to have it. You know, either you pay for it, you don't pay for it. That's it.
And then also, like, these streaming services have been, I mean, they've been underpriced for
Oh God, yeah, yes.
for
Again,
for since their inception, because
right. No question.
well, because they like, and this is the thing that again, it's a shell game, it's a pyramid scheme basically, and so they're the investors were basically told that we'll make up for the low price, we'll make it up on volume, in terms of subscribers, and of course, but
Which a lot of them, which a lot of them have. Netflix, for example, has.
they're the only ones, and it took them 20 years.
Yeah, it took a hell of a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, and these other, but that's the thing that they've been selling to the investors, that look, we'll make it up on volume, and then, and look, and these things, a lot of these things are being kept afloat because, the investors keep just pouring money into it. And,
Yeah,
and so if you want to, and, the latest example of that type of thing is all this AI stuff. It's not profitable, and they're just, they're tricking people into shoving more money at it, basically. And that's how these streaming services have been, right? They just, I mean, they've been tricking the investors into just pouring more money into it. That if we just keep going, we just keep it going, one day it'll be profitable. And, you know, but that's not our problem. It's just, as long as you have the money, and, and, yes, people will have to shift stuff around. Like, I got Paramount Plus, I barely use it. I'll probably drop that soon.
UFC guy.
No, no, no. I've tried UFC a couple of times. It it's funny because, like, me and my friends, like, we watched, like, when I was in college, we watched, like, the very first UFC fights, where it was like fucking Kumite, right? Right. I mean, like the shit that almost got banned, right? I mean, we watched that version of UFC. Okay. Um,
Talk about the way back, man.
like, well, there was no weight classes, and you had like Tank Abbott against some dude like 100 pounds, and he was just, and he would pound the shit out of the guy, or he would run out of gas. Right. I mean, like we watched that UFC. Okay.
Yeah.
But honestly, I've never really been able to get into the modern day version. It's funny because, with this whole thing with TKO, like, I mean, Nick Khan has even said there's not a whole lot of overlap between the two audiences, even, and which makes this continued effort to, it feels like they're trying to make fetch happen, and, with the two audiences, and it's just like, most hardcore UFC fans aren't interested in, worked wrestling matches, and most wrestling fans are not interested in UFC. Like, most wrestling fans, they tune in to see worked wrestling matches,
Yeah.
and all the theater and everything that goes along with it. But so yeah, I'll probably drop Paramount Plus since I barely use it. I've watched all the Mission Impossible movies a bunch of times. I've watched,
And that's the play too. Also, like, you want to drop it something, just drop the service a couple months, and then save the money for now, and then pick it back up when you want to pick it back up.
yeah,
That's the best part.
yeah,
There's no contract now. If there comes a day where they start making you do contracts, now they got a problem.
yeah, exactly. If they start doing, yes, and if that ever becomes a thing, which it would be really stupid, but I mean, well, look,
There were cable companies doing that stuff recently in the last few years.
Yeah, so it's just, oh yeah, I mean, I remember, and it's not smart, but look, I mean, these business executive people, that they're not very smart. I mean, they want people to believe they are, but they aren't.
Right.
Oh,
Speaking of streaming, did you watch WWE Unreal? Did you finish it?
Yes.
What do you think?
Okay, so I thought some parts of it were really good. Like when they have the kind of candid conversations with the wrestlers about their lives and all that. I thought that part was really good. That stuff was really good. Um,
Hmm.
when guys like Michael Hayes are talking about, when they're that part of Michael Hayes was talking about his career as a heel with the Freebirds, and he explained
Yeah.
what it all meant. That was really good. Um, and yes, I mean I thought some aspects of it were great, and and some of like the some of the behind the scenes talking about stuff like between with The Rock and Triple H, I thought was really good, and
Yeah.
some of the like moments backstage with the wrestlers, I thought were really good. Um, the one part that I thought was like the whole writers room stuff is just bullshit. Um,
What do you mean?
I
You
don't
hate
think
it?
I don't think any of that's real. I don't think any of the writers room stuff was real.
Yeah, it looks way too
I think
up
it
to the
was
camera shit.
yeah, and I think the writers room stuff was all yeah. I mean, it was all they were doing sketches basically. I don't think there's no way that because that they sit around like that, and then they kind of and then somebody dramatically comes up with these ideas, and no, that's all. I think all the writers room stuff I would dare say is the work.
I
Uh,
agree with you 100%. I thought the same thing too. Like this is not the way they did that. There's no way how they just out of nowhere decided Jey Uso. How about Jey Uso?
right,
No,
because
that
Jey
was
Uso
decided 6 months before that. Stop that. Okay, that was
because
decided months ago.
Jey Uso has been hot for a couple of years now.
Yes,
So I
yes.
mean it's it was not some like some out of left field decision to have Jey Uso win the Royal Rumble this year. It was not. I'm sorry. That I mean, something out of nowhere would have been like, like if Sami Zayn had won it, right? Or you
Right.
know,
That's a little different. Yeah, I agree.
but not Jey Uso. No. Um, and again, so yeah, and then when they showed that whole whiteboard, with the supposed original WrestleMania card, and just looking at some of the matches they had on that whiteboard, and I'm sorry, there was no way on earth they went from some of the stuff on that whiteboard to what they ended up with. Um,
Yeah.
like they had a 6-man ladder match for the U.S. title and the Intercontinental title, and there's no way in hell they were going to do that. No, I'm sorry, there was no way they were going to do 2 ladder matches for both the mid card titles. No, stop it. Um, and then you know, um, and then they had like one of them. They like Charlotte and Becky challenging the Kabuki Warriors. I think it probably would have been for the women's tag team titles. And to go from that to Charlotte winning the Royal Rumble, and then Becky doing the whole angle with Lyra Valkyria and all that. I mean, come on now, stop it, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So
I
to
was
me,
actually. Yeah. Go
I
ahead. Go
think
ahead.
I think all the writers' room stuff was bullshit. Um, and a couple people have even kind of winked or kind of alluded. I think it might have been Cody or somebody, you know, kind of dropped, maybe little breadcrumbs that yeah, this that stuff, you know, that's not really how all of this stuff happened.
Yeah.
um, you know, um, and like the whole thing, and you know, well, we thought about turning John and seeing, so I called John and we talked, and I talked to him not as the booker, but I talked to him man to man, Paul to John, blah blah blah. I'm like, come on, stop, right? Like some of that, some of that stuff was just laying on a little too thick. But you, you know, I mean,
It was way too coordinated for what the wrestling business has been for many years. A lot of the
yeah,
rest of the wrestling business is much more random and much more spontaneous than what was presented there. Like, stop. Like, we're not going to believe that. I know we're in the new era of wrestling and TKO and all this stuff. Everything's glossy now. No. At the end of the day, most of these ideas are still something that just comes out of nowhere. So I'm with you on that one.
yeah, and so like I mean, obviously, look, there are a few matches that they're thinking about, like you said, 6 months ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
Like the main events, who's going to challenge for the world titles, you know, they're already, they're thinking of that, October, November, or whatever, or
Hmm.
maybe sooner. Like, or in some cases, like, look, like when Cody lost at 39, we knew he was coming back at 40.
Yeah.
right? I mean, that was a year ahead of time. We knew.
Hmm.
Or when Savage won the tournament, right? And they closed WrestleMania 4 with Hogan and Savage standing in the ring together.
We knew
That
five
was
would be the match. Yeah.
like we knew. I mean, that was just the biggest foreshadowing. We knew, right? And even like and people who look and people who were smarter to the business, even right when Andre won the Battle Royal WrestleMania 2, you could look and see what kind of shape he was in, and you knew if you were smart to the business. I mean, you had to be much smarter to the business back then.
Hmm.
But if you were that smart to the business, when you saw Andre laboring around when he won the Battle Royal WrestleMania 2, you knew they were going to do Andre versus Hogan, and you knew then that they got to do this. They can't wait no longer,
Right.
right? So yeah, I mean, the biggest, the world title matches and all of the main events, no, they're not like they're not pitching that. No, nobody's come out of left field with some idea. Like, what about this guy? No,
Yeah.
stop it. But look, I mean, again, the stuff where they talk to the wrestlers, that stuff was all really good. And
The Chelsea Green things. The Chelsea Green stuff was amazing. I love it. Probably my
yeah,
favorite stuff.
and
Outside of heel turn of Cody, no, not Cody, Cena. I thought the Chelsea Green thing was probably my favorite segment of the entire series.
yeah, and so I mean, look, and I think our concern, the concern that some people had that they were going to be giving away too much of the business or whatever.
Yeah.
I, I don't think that's a problem because again, well, the only thing that was different, the only thing that was quote unquote new was the writers' room stuff. Like we've seen on like those WWE 24 documentaries, them talk to the wrestlers, right? I
Hmm.
guess the only difference is that on those 24 documentaries, they were, even when they were talking about their real life or whatever, they were still kind of doing it in character, right? But so that's the only difference with this. I mean, the wrestlers were telling you what their real names were and all of that. Like, okay, and that's fine. Um, but even then, like, I mean, it doesn't take much to stop and think. I mean, you know, Charlotte Flair is miraculous. Just convinced, you know, she just happens to be named after the city she grew up in. I mean, right? I mean, like, it doesn't take much to,
Yeah.
I mean, to know that no, that's not her real name,
Yes.
right?
It's
Or to
actually.
or,
Yeah.
or to know that Roman Reigns. I mean, come on, his real name isn't Roman Reigns. Even if you don't know what his real name is, right? I mean, I mean, so no, I don't think that was some big, damaging reveal or anything. The most potentially damaging reveal was the writers' room stuff. And again, I think that was all bullshit anyway. So
And most people who I've spoken to about this really agree with you. Also, will say that the writers' room thing was like the only thing they didn't like. Felt very unauthentic. Honestly, you know.
yeah, because it was. I mean, yeah, it was that part was just like, it's like
But
okay,
it is nice as someone who's, and I know you and I are very, I don't say protective is the word to use, but I think because of things have changed. We've been watching this product for 40 plus years. And things have changed. I mean, we will learn to adapt to what is today, versus what we were raised to be and what we're raised to know. It is nice to see how, for the most part, I'm not saying it's completely that way because the writers' room thing is also bullshit. But for the most part, how the cookie is baked, how the food is made, it's good. It's nice to see Gorilla and what goes on in Gorilla, and some of these wrestlers also too, and the insecurities. Rhea Ripley is one of the most over stars in the company, and she's still insecure about big matches. It was nice to see that. Not nice to see it's insecure, but nice to see that the vulnerability of some of these these stars. You know what I mean?
well, because wrestlers they're very unique in that like trained how to wrestle,
Hmm.
right? But I don't think like they're not trained actors, right? They have to learn how to act on the fly.
Yeah.
They have to learn how to emote in front of a crowd on the fly, right? Whereas, trained actors, they learn how to do all that stuff. And then a lot of these wrestlers are, some of them are naturally outgoing kind of people, but a lot of them aren't. Like, and because I'm like, I go back like Run DMC, for those of you who are not younger people, Run DMC is, arguably the greatest rap group of all time.
That's right.
One of the members, DMC, he talked about this like for the longest time because he was like super introverted and he had to get into character, basically the same like a wrestler does. He had to get into character to go on stage, right? And so these folks, yeah, I mean, a lot of these folks are introverted. They're, it's just they're not people to go out there and just show out like that. And so yeah, I mean, they do get, they get all types of butterflies and they get nervous and and whatnot before they go out there. And yeah, and so just wrestlers are very unique. They're unique performers,
They are.
and
Yeah.
because a lot of them are just, they learn they wanted to do the wrestling part of it, and they learn how to do that, and then you realize that all this other stuff comes with it, right? And or some of them maybe grew up as wrestling fans, and maybe they did want to cut promos or whatever. But there's a difference between watching somebody else do it, and then you got to do it, right? Um, and it's an entirely different thing, and and so to see them kind of have to wrestle with that, unintended, or figure out how to be able to do that for themselves. um it is fascinating, it is interesting. I mean, and so like those aspects of it are you know really fun to see.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
all in all,
Absolutely.
I think it was, yeah, I'd say, all in all, look, it was a good entertaining thing. And yeah, I mean, just again, the worst part was the writers room stuff, and I think that was, that was all bullshit anyway. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you watched it because I remember you were like, I wouldn't say you were dead set not watching it, but you were not excited about watching the show. When we first got announced a couple months ago, I asked you on the show, like, are you gonna indulge in this? He's like, probably not. And I'm
well,
glad you
'cause
did, man,
I
because
guess
that's
for
it's really good
me,
stuff, man. I mean, like I said, you can take the good and
yeah, because I guess for me, like I guess one of my biggest issues for me is like a lot of like the so-called smart fans. They're my dad used to say that, some people are so smart that they're stupid. And, you know, and I guess one of the things that just irks me is like some people's complete unwillingness to play along.
yeah,
Like we know Robert Downey Jr. is not flying around in an Iron Man suit, right? We know that. But while you're watching the movie, you go with it, right? Um, or we know that he's the good guy and Thanos was the bad guy, but nobody, but you don't see people rooting for Thanos because they like the actor who played him, right? Or because well, Robert Downey, or you don't see people rooting against Tony Stark in the movie because the actor who plays the villain had a harder career than Robert Downey Jr., right? I mean, and so for me, when they pull the curtain back too much, I do kind of worry that that feeds into that mentality that some fans have nowadays, where they're more interested in the people, or they're rooting for the people and not the characters. But I don't think they really ruined anything here with that.
yeah, I agree. I agree, and it's okay to pretend that we know it's not real. So play along. That's the whole purpose of watching this stuff, man. So yeah, if you haven't watched it on Unreal on Netflix, check it out. It's worth the watch. In fact, Netflix has a lot of good stuff going on there. I watched the quarterback season 2 recently. I'm watching the receivers from last year. I'm watching some other stuff there. A lot of good content. You definitely get my $20 worth a month out of that. That being said, let's go ahead and preview this week's Clash in Paris, which I thought was Saturday. It's actually Sunday. Um, this week. It is. Let me give a quick and see the layout here. It is going to take place August 31st, 2025. in Nanterre, France, at the Paris La Défense Arena. 5 matches, Rob, for here.
Yeah.
Simple PLE. I mean, it's a get in, get out show, but it's a good card there. And we'll break it down quick. First match here: Becky Lynch versus Nikki Bella for the WWE Women's Intercontinental Championship. Pretty interesting build so far for this one.
I think this is obvious. And this is, I mean, I mentioned this when we talked about evolution on the Mindless podcast. I mentioned the same thing with Trish, challenging for the women's title, and everybody knew she wasn't winning. If you're going to keep bringing Trish and Nikki Bella, if you're going to keep bringing them back, at some point they got to win something, right? Look, when Undertaker, when he was a part-time guy, those last 6 or 7 years, he still won stuff. He didn't just lose to people, right? And same thing with Hunter. When Hunter was doing a part-time schedule, he still won things. He did not, he wasn't just out there to lose to the next generation of people.
Right.
So I guess I'm just not really that interested in this match because it's like we know what's going to happen, and there's no drama as far as to the result.
Mm-hmm.
And so at some point, one of these, again, if they're going to keep bringing them back. And I'm all for these ladies coming back and getting these checks because you know what, the men have done it for years and years and years. The women like Trish and Nikki Bella, and and Lita if she wants to come back again, and whoever, and there are others from like the Divas era. If if the offer, if they want to, if they're offered a chance to come back and get a check, then more power to them. They should come get it because they're as entitled to it as the men. But from a booking standpoint, they got to start winning some things because it loses its luster if you know they're just going to lose, right? Like that was like when Goldberg came back, right? I mean, most of us thought that they were just going to feed him to Brock, and he beat Brock Lesnar in 30 seconds, right?
Right.
And that energized everything, right? And so, yeah, I mean, if you're going to keep bringing these ladies back, one of them needs to win something. One of them needs to win. And look, you got mid-card titles now, right? If you don't want Trish to beat Rhea Ripley or whatever for the world title, I get that. But now you got mid-card title, right? I mean, there's no reason Nikki Bella. I mean, there's no reason Nikki Bella couldn't win this title and then lose it a month later or whatever. But right now, I think there's zero chance of that happening.
Yeah. So you have Nikki Bella this one?
Yeah. Say again?
You have Nikki Bella win this one?
No, hell no. She's losing. I mean,
you got Becky?
Yeah, I think it's very obvious.
I think Becky wins this one, but I think this is not the last match for you too. Main thing I see is schmoz. I see like some DQ or double DQ or some shit. I don't know. I think you can squeeze at least another match or two out of this feud. Especially now in the fall with nothing going on. So I'll take Becky in this one for the time being. All right, we have a singles match between Roman Reigns and Bronson Reed. Of course, Paul Heyman being Bronson Reed's corner. Is this a battle? Is this a battle for the shoes?
Yeah, I gotta look. I mean, they've really found a thing for Bronson Reed to sink his teeth into with the shoe thing, and I mean, I think this. I mean, this could be a simple, Roman wins, game. It could be that, or I can't. It's hard for me to picture Bronson winning. But yeah, I can see a scenario where Roman wins, and then Bronson attacks him afterwards and lays him out, and then he's gone for a little while.
Yeah,
you could see that. So I do think Roman wins, but I do think that afterwards he's going to get written off of TV, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, I got Roman here on this one too. Easy answer there. All right, next match here we have a good old-fashioned Donnybrook match between Sheamus and Rusev. Another big meat match.
Yeah,
Explain to the folks on the show what a Donnybrook match is.
and basically it's your kind of standard, Extreme Rules, no DQ kind of match, except like the kind of motif is like kind of an Irish pub kind of setup. So there'll be weapons that are, you know, kind of native to basically to Ireland. There'll be things like a shillelagh and things like that Sheamus uses and stuff like that. And it might be like a whiskey bottle or something. I think they've had it at one of these matches
Right.
before.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it's just kind of a themed Extreme Rules match.
Okay. Easy answer here, right? I imagine Sheamus.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, easy answer. Sheamus here too. Also, all right. We also have the fatal four-way match for the World Heavyweight Championship between Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Jey Uso, and LA Knight. If you watch Raw, like obviously there's three babyfaces versus one heel, but the babyfaces aren't getting along, and there was a little bit of a kerfuffle, if you will, at the end of Raw last night between Punk, Uso, and LA Knight. So that's some good stuff there. I'm taking a little Seth Rollins to win this match.
Yeah, me too.
Because I mean, what else? It doesn't make any other sense to put the belt on anybody else. But this is gonna be a good match, I think. Though
Oh yeah,
these
it'll be
guys are gonna be all great workers.
Oh yeah, and it'll be a good, fun, entertaining match, and Rollins will win.
Yeah, and finally, singles match, which is probably the main event here: John Cena and Logan Paul.
Cena wins. I mean, we're at that point of the tour now. He's gonna he's racking up the babyface wins. And maybe Brock comes out and kills him afterwards, but he's gonna win. Yeah.
Yeah, not only is he a babyface again, he's a very, 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 very over babyface at this point now. So yeah, at this point, I just don't I don't see Logan Paul winning this. This is another bump in the road for Cena that he'll get over in Paris. So I will also take John Cena in this match.
I can't see him losing. They're not gonna send him in to face Brock coming off of a loss.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Two things to get you out of here. There been some rumors and reports recently about Chris Jericho potentially return to WWE. Some of the speculation has been fueled by a few key factors. Number one is AEW contract expiring at the end of 2025, which would be making him a free agent. Rumors also probably began when Jericho liked a social media post suggesting a return to WWE, which is also seen as a hint of his interest. Dave Meltzer has reported that people within the AEW believe Jericho will not return to the company. Instead, they believe he may make a surprise return in the 2026 Men's Royal Rumble match. Additionally, there's some reports suggest that there is interest on the WWE side to bring them back. WWE has also been teasing Jericho return by sharing videos of his past matches on their WWE Vault channel on YouTube, which fans and media have interpreted as a subtle hint. It's important to note that while there is lots of speculation, none has been officially confirmed by either Chris Jericho or WWE. Jericho is currently on a contract with AEW and last appeared on the television programming in April. Wow, that long, huh? The rumors suggest that if he were to return to WWE, it would be for a final run before a potential Hall of Fame induction. Do you want to see it?
Okay. You know what? As long as if it's in a limited capacity, absolutely yes. Look, I was at one time a card carrying Jerichoholic.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, tell me that. Yep.
And so, do I want to see him on weekly television every week? No. But I think it is only proper for him to end his career in the WWE.
Yeah.
One
Agreed.
and look, yes, and look as much as I've crapped on the dude over the last couple of years. When the countdown clock hits during the Royal Rumble, I'm gonna pop like everybody else. Okay. And so look, if it's just, come back in the Rumble, do a WrestleMania match, get your Hall of Fame induction, and maybe show up every now and then, if it's that, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay. If he's gonna be out there on weekly television, trying to eat up TV time and and all this, then no, we don't need that. But and look, yes, they absolutely will bring him back. Okay, you kidding me? Look, they love to sell merchandise. Okay, they yes,
Oh yeah, that's easy money there.
that's easy
I
money.
mean,
Y2J,
TKO merch. Oh my god.
the Y2J farewell tour or the Y2J final run, the Y2J final countdown run or whatever. Yes, they will absolutely do that. Yes, of course they will. Okay. Um, look, I mean, and Jericho didn't burn any bridges. I mean, all he did, like, I mean, yeah, he shit talked them, but I mean, people do that, right? That you leave a company and
That's
you
this.
shit talk.
Please, I mean,
That's
the
par for the course.
fucking WCW, WWE, WCW back in the '90s during the wars,
Yeah, I
Savage
mean,
should talk WWE and vice versa, and then they were still talking about coming back to the. Please, like, come
of
on.
course. I
It's
mean,
like Vince says, if there's business to be done, business will be done.
yes, of course. And look, once Punk came back, I mean, look, Jericho did not leave under any type of cloud like CM Punk did. Okay,
Right?
and
Exactly. Yeah.
and as soon as CM Punk was available, they started talking to him. All right,
Yeah.
and look, we knew as soon as Tony Khan said CM Punk was fired, we knew what was going to happen.
Exactly.
It was just a matter of
Exactly.
when. All right, and so if they can bring back CM Punk, if they can bring back Brock Lesnar while even though he's not mentioned, he's not named as a defendant, his name is in the court documents. If they would bring back Brock Lesnar while litigation is going on, where his name is again in the court documents, I mean, you don't think they'll bring back Chris Jericho? Are you kidding me? Um, and look, again, this is another thing where you know the majority of the audience probably doesn't even know he was in AEW. The majority of the audience doesn't watch AEW. They
Right.
don't know much about AEW. They barely know that he was okay. They might know that he left. Okay.
And Rob,
Um,
quite frankly, he used a position. He's to me, he's served his purpose in AEW. Those
oh
first
yeah,
couple
and that's the
years,
other thing.
great creative. But honestly, even before I stopped watching AEW a couple years ago, he was already to me. I was getting burned out on him anyway.
Oh yeah, and that's why I said we don't need him on weekly TV. No.
Right.
But I mean, yes, of course they're gonna bring him back. If he
Yeah.
if he leaves, of course they're gonna bring him back.
So let's make a prediction right now. Do you think it happens next year? I'm gonna say yes.
Um, Probably because I think like you said, like there's nothing else for him to do in AEW. Um, and I think, yeah, I think both he and the AEW audience are kind of burned out. So yes, I mean this is the time, and yes, it is. And again, the majority of the WWE audience does not know anything that he has said about the company in the last few years. They don't know what he's been doing. Because whenever Punk because we know like whenever Punk tries to reference some of that AEW stuff in his promos, you hear
Yeah.
the crowd, they're like, huh?
hmm
Right? I mean,
hmm
so
hmm
they don't know.
No, they don't.
The people who know are like us, okay?
Yeah, the nerds. We're the nerds.
Right.
We
But the
get all the small
majority of the
jokes and stuff.
people,
Yeah.
I mean, like Punk tried to make jokes about the brawl out thing like immediately after it happened. And the crowd was still like, what's he talking about? The people in the arena were still kind of like, what's he talking about? What's that? Right. And the jokes didn't go over, right?
Right.
Because most of the people in the building had no idea what he was talking about.
Yeah.
So when that countdown clock hits, you are not going to have people booing because, oh, well, he should talk to WWE for the past 6 years. Because they don't know. They all they know is that he ain't been there. That's all they know. And the same thing with CM Punk. They knew CM Punk wasn't there. Okay.
Right.
They know what CM Punk was. They knew he wasn't there. Okay. They know that Chris Jericho has not been there. Okay. Um, they knew that Cody Rhodes had not been there, that he was gone. Right. If John Moxley ever comes back, they won't know about the Death Riders. They'll just know that
Yeah.
John was gone and now he's home. Right. And just like look, the majority of people watching have no idea about anything with Brock Lesnar and the litigation. They have no idea. They just know that Brock's been gone. Okay. Because most of the audience doesn't do what we do. Okay, they don't. They tune in, they watch the TV, and then they turn. And when the show's over, they go on about doing whatever it is else they want to do.
Exactly.
Um, so those people, the ones who remember Chris Jericho, the ones who were watching when Chris Jericho was there before, they will pop and they will go crazy when the countdown clock hits during the Royal Rumble. Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna prediction. I'm gonna make I'm gonna put it 85%. And to be honest, the closer we get, I'll put 9%. There is no other reason why he'd be at AEW anymore. And the fact he's not been on TV since April should tell you that. They're not gonna put him on TV now in 4 months. This was his deal to end. You know, it makes no sense.
Yeah,
So
because some people you just know, right? And or like Mariah May, who is now Blake Monroe in NXT, right? Her like she always wanted to get to WWE. That was always her career goal, right? And so you can't be surprised that she came over because she always wanted to do that, right? And yeah, Jericho's one of those people. Yeah, I don't care what he says in interviews or whatever. That he is going to end his career in WWE, in some way or capacity. Again, most of the people watching have no idea what he's been doing. They just know he hasn't been there. Okay.
right, I agree. I'm gonna put 85%. Honestly, I'll put 90%. Honestly, so yeah, that's that. All right, one last thing to get you out of here. And this is back talking about Goldberg now. Your boy Goldberg. I don't remember if we discussed this. We might actually touch on this a little bit on the show after his last match on Sunday's main event, but he was very frustrated how things turned out after that match. He feels that the company didn't give him a retirement, the proper build up or send off that he believed was worth his career. He stated he was pissed off at the way that he went out because he felt his effort was not reciprocated. Some of his points included the fact that his match should have been announced with more notice. He was given 3 weeks. He felt like the venue, specifically the Sunday's main event taping, was not a grand enough stage for his final match compared to events like WrestleMania and SummerSlam. His farewell speech also to the fans was also cut short. Despite his frustrations at the way his time was handled, Goldberg has also stated that he was happy with his performance in the match and expressed that it was an honor to be in the ring with Gunther. He also noted that he suffered a broken hand during the match. Now, I say this because Peter Rosenberg is the host of the GP podcast, one of the most popular wrestling podcasts on the planet. He had things to say about Goldberg and his frustration. Here's his 1 minute take. I'm gonna play this real quick. 1 second.
See, I appreciate wrestling.
There it is. Okay. All right. Play real quick. Sorry, this thing fed out a little late.
Jewish.
There you go. You hear that? Well,
I can't hear it now.
Is it playing? Yeah, it's doing something stupid here. There you go.
Listen, Bill Goldberg, as a Jewish guy who's in wrestling and loves wrestling myself, obviously I appreciate his contributions. I cannot believe the complaints about his send-off. Have you guys ever noticed that the people who are the most overbooked, the most over-celebrated, are always the ones who complain? The man got a 15-minute match. It should have been a squash. Let's be honest. He should have gotten Goldberg. He should have been speared and taken out. The man's pushing 60 years old, hasn't looked good in the ring, some would say ever, but certainly not in the last few years. Got to have a 15-minute match, a battle with the world champion, and get a few words live on television, and complains about his mic getting cut off. First of all, people, watch the product. NBC goes when the show ends every single time. They do not wait. The NBC, this is network TV. It's not USA, it's not Netflix, it's NBC. They go when they go. He still got in a nice little moment and got to be celebrated on. Do you know how many people better than Goldberg, their send-off was, we wish them the best in their future endeavors? All right? Do you know how many? Did this guy get to stand in the ring on national television and have a send-off? You should be thanking your lucky stars for the money you've made and the appreciation you've gotten, which many don't even feel is fully deserved. To complain, I'm so disappointed.
All right. I kind of agree with him here a little bit. He could be frustrated all you want, but I mean, look. Here's the thing goes to a Goldberg, and I hate to bring this up. Like, he's okay outside of the couple of returns he's made through the years. He came back in 2003. and was gone a year later. Came back after that 10 years later, if that,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
longer. Came back, was gone. His returns were spotty at best. Like he just spent a significant amount of time in WWE. So the fact that he's even be mad about this, number one, given the fact that they didn't first off, they didn't have to do this. There was no desire for Goldberg return, first off. In fact, when he was wrestling in 2019, 2020, people didn't want him around in the first place. There's a lot of go away heat. So to me, honestly, I see Pete Rosenberger's point here. The fact that you got a 50-minute match out of this guy, he should be thankful that happened. I don't know, man. He shouldn't be upset about anything in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. Your thoughts. You're Goldberg guy, so you tell me.
Okay.
Am I out of pocket here? You tell me.
Oh, okay. Well, now I think him getting squashed. No, that should not happen. I think the 15-minute match is exactly what should have happened. Okay. Because I mean, I'm sorry. There's an obsession that some people in the IWC have with like, oh well, you got to go out on your back and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I mean, and this idea that he should have gotten squashed. Nobody wanted to see. I mean, even the people saying that didn't want to see it. Okay, it's just they have this abstract idea that that's what should have happened, right? But they didn't want to see that. They wouldn't. I mean, they didn't. Nobody wanted to see that. Okay, that's like when people, like, well, Sting didn't lose a match in AEW. You know why? Nobody wanted to see Sting lose. Okay, nobody wanted to see that, except for these idiots with these ideas of, what is the right way to do business if you're a wrestler? You're supposed to go out on your back. You're supposed to do this and do that and blah, 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 blah. Okay, please. Okay. I mean, I'm sorry. Look, Goldberg drew more money than 90% of the people in the business, maybe more, maybe 95%. Okay. When you draw the kind of money he drew, guess what? Yeah, you get some more say in how you go out. Okay. Yes. All right. And that's just what it is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so no, he should not have gotten squashed. That's just stupid. Okay.
Yeah, that part I agree with you on.
Now,
and another thing also I will agree with Goldberg on as well is that, and I even said this before when we were talking about before they even announced this thing back in over the summer when he was coming back. We at the time we didn't know when he was coming back, what event he was going to do it for. But I mentioned SummerSlam's perfect, doing SummerSlam. But the main event was actually in Atlanta, so it made more sense he did in his hometown.
Yeah.
So that's why he did that. So
my guess is that he probably, even if they didn't tell him this, he probably was under the impression that it was going to be on a PLE. Okay, because I mean, he never came back to fight on network TV before, right? So my guess is that he was under the impression that it was going to be on a PLE of some kind. And then, so then when they told him no, it was going to be a Saturday Night's Main Event, he was probably like, really? This is like, sometimes you don't need to share your feelings about everything.
Yeah.
Right.
He's doing the Bret Hart thing now.
Right. Sometimes.
So figure Bret Hart being on people I'm comparing it to based on their own hatred of each other.
Look, we're human beings. Sometimes we get grouchy about shit, and we really shouldn't, but we do. But the difference is, you stay grouchy. You're grouchy at home for an hour or for a couple of days or whatever about whatever it is, and you work your feelings out and you get over it and you move on with life, right?
Yeah.
And that's what he should have done. Like, there's no need to say this stuff. I don't know whether it's in an interview or whatever. There's no need to say this stuff out in public because people sometimes we get feelings about things that are just stupid. We get stupid. We have stupid feelings about things sometimes. We have sometimes we have selfish feelings about things that we shouldn't. And you just you work it out, and then you move on, and then when you think about it later, you're like, you know what, man, I'll trip it, whatever, you know. And that's and that's it's fine to be frustrated, right? But sometimes you just need to keep that shit to yourself. All right, you do.
I agree.
And
I guess now he's doing it because he can because it's over now. So
but again, so that's I mean, that's where I mean, I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue with people having feelings about stuff, but there's a time and place to express your feelings. Some of those feelings you need to express at home, okay? And or to one of your friends and not say it out in public, right? And then your friend or your wife or whoever, they can either nod their head, and then, or they can say, "Dude, shut up, stop it," right? And that's where but he didn't need to say all that stuff out in public.
Yeah.
That's
by the way, right. By the way, Goldberg, John Cena, Mount Rushmore guy, all time WWE history, not you. Do you know what his last match is going to be also too on the main event? Not WrestleMania, not Royal Rumble, not SummerSlam. His last match will be on also main event. So you wouldn't start questioning the platform when you're doing this. John Cena, the guy who I consider the Mount Rushmore of that company, next to Hulk Hogan, next to The Rock, Austin, those guys. His last match coming up this year will also be on the main event. So before you start trashing the platform, have a little bit of be a little humble about that.
Well, I guess the difference is, but it'll be on the main event, but that'll be after he main evented WrestleMania and he main evented a bunch of PLEs and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, it's not that big of a deal if the final match is on.
But it's not like Goldberg in the 20 plus years he was in and out of WWE was here for more than a year in this company. That's what I don't get. Like, you're not involved in any long-term storylines. You come in for a quick fix. You get a payoff. You do a Saudi show here and there, and then you're good. Like, no. Stop.
Well, yeah, it's just this was the only place to give him a send-off.
Right.
So
like I said, Goldberg, I appreciate him. Hall of Famer, the whole nine, a legend, boom, boom, boom. Maybe a top 50 guy all-time W history. That's something we're debating. But honestly, like, stop. We're good. Like, stop bitching now. You sound worse than Bret Hart now. And Bret Hart, for record, he can bitch all he wants to because he's Bret Hart. And even though Bret Hart bitches all the time, you never get a feeling he's lying either. But this is my opinion. So anyway, Rob, thank you so much as always. Come on the show. You want to plug anything?
As always, you can hear me on the Mindless Wrestling podcast every week, and you can hear me every few weeks on the Robert Genius podcast. I've been a little late getting this.
I'm just gonna get there because I'm checking right now.
Yeah, because it's been a while. I know because I've had some topics that I've kicked around in my head that I just haven't been able to finish.
Brother, the last podcast you recorded was actually a month and a day ago.
Oh wow! So
you're slacking, bro. You're back on the grind again. You got your platform now, and now you've done 2 shows in July, and that's it, bro.
Okay,
what are we doing?
Look, I got to get back to it, and I got to finish. Okay, because I overthink everything, and
don't. That's the thing. Don't. Just talk and say and put it out there.
I know because I try to make the perfect episode, and then sometimes, I start rambling, and what should have taken 5 minutes to talk about, it'll be like 15 minutes. I'm like, okay, I can't do. Nobody wants to hear me talk for 15 minutes about this shit. And so I need to find some way to cut it back down to 5, and then that's where I run into problems. Okay.
Yeah, don't do that. Just put it out there for the world, and then let it sit with it lies. But anyway, you can find me, of course, also on Twitter at Egypt7 on X, rather, not Twitter, whatever to call it. Earnestly Podcast. Well, False Guy Anywhere, of course, part of Earnestly Podcast. Earnestly Pod, of course, on all the podcast catchers, especially on YouTube at Earnestly Pod, TikTok Earnestly Pod, Instagram, all that good stuff. I am done. I'm on vacation until the next episode. That's right. We will talk to you guys soon. Enjoy Clash in Paris, and we'll let you know when we want to record again. So later.